In the last session, we were discussing about the mapper, and we have already seen how exactly this is going to work. And we see here that we have fetched the year from the line, then which was at the character place at 88, and sometimes we make use of the plus in front of the temperature. So to ignore that, we are just using this ignorance type of if condition, and subsequently we are storing it inside the air temperature by after converting it into integer. So after doing this, we have mapped the year as well as temperature perfectly inside our mapper. Now let us see how we are going to reduce the things by making use of the reducer program. So as in the previous case, we have to make use of import statements, something like iterator, then IO exception, iterable, hadoop.io.text, then hadoop.MapReduce space, then MapReduce output collector, then MapReduce reducer, then MapReduce reporter. So these interfaces and classes have to be imported. Then after that, what we do is we just make use of a class called as max temperature reducer extends MapReduce space. So we can see that in the previous situation the class name was max temperature mapper, and in this case we are using max temperature reducer. So this is extending the MapReduce space and implements the reducer interface. In the previous session we have seen that we were implementing the mapper interface. Now we are implementing reducer interface. So we are making use of the function present inside that interface, that is reduce, and we are using the text, which is a key, then int writable object, whatever we have read from that, then the values along with the output collector, then we are making use of text and int writable. These are the iterator and output collector are the generic data types. Then we are making use of a reporter, and all these things throws the IO exception. So we are making use of int max value equals to integer dot min value, then while values dot has next, we are making use of max value whenever we are making use of the max value function. So we are just trying to call the built-in function called as max, which is present in map package. So after this, what we are trying to do is we are trying to save the max value inside the variable called as max value, and this max value will be inputted as a output to our as the output of this particular program. So next we need to find the application for calling both of these particular classes. So here we make use of some extra import statements, that is file input format, file output format, then job client, then job configuration, and rest of the things are already we have seen. Now next when we are trying to see this, here the class name is max temperature, then we were making use of the max that is main function, and here we are trying to read the command line arguments from the program, and here we are printing the messages, that is max temperature input path, output path, if there are any errors in that. So errors in the sense the command line arguments are, if they don't have any proper command line arguments, then we are getting the error and we are exiting the system. So if there is no error, in this particular command line arguments, then we just proceed into our program where we create a class job conf conf, that is job configuration conf as an object, which is nothing but the request to make use of the application in the form of MapReducer. So we are making use of a max temperature class dot class, which is nothing but the same class name. So we are assigning this, then set the job name as max temperature, then the file input format dot add input path. So we will be adding the path where exactly we need to put that max temperature in the form of first argument, and here we are setting the second output in the form of second argument. So we are using the input path from this particular statement, and we are setting the output path from this particular second command line argument. So after that, we are setting the max temperature mapper dot class with the mapper class, and we are setting the CONF, that is job conf object with the reducer class. So after setting this, we have set successfully the mapper and the reducer function for our data. So set output key class, and the class will be in the form of text.class, and the values will be in the form of int writable dot class. Here this is in the form of string, and here this is in the form of int writable, which is nothing but an integer in HDFS. And after that, we make use of a function called a job client dot run job with the conf object. So if I run this, then automatically my MapReducer functions are being put inside the HDFS MapReducer application. So this is one more version where we are trying to make use of the context objects for working with the MapReduce application. So here we name the class as new max temperature. Then we are making use of a class which is in the form of static class, and we are extending the mapper along with the long writable, then text, long writable text, and int writable. All these are nothing but the parameters which are provided with the mapper function, which is there in the interface. Okay, now we are just making use of the same logic there. So here we are using the spaces of the characters, and we are storing the temperature. After storing all the temperature and everything, in the last thing what we see is we are using context.write, new text here, new int writable air temperature. So we are making use of the context object here instead of making use of, in the previous situation we have used the conf set mapper class and set reducer class by using file input format and file output format objects. But and we are also making use of job client dot run job. But in this case we are using only context. So this is a reduce function for this. So in the previous situation we have used the mapper function, and here we are making use of the reducer function. And here also we use the context.write key new int writable max value. So this is a mapper function, and this is a reducer function. Then this is the main application where we are writing the main function, and in the main function also what we are doing is here we are using a job, and we are using file input format, file output format, then setting all the things, and we are making use of output key class, set output value class, then all these things. So the main important difference here is, in the previous situation what we have done is we are making use of the MapReduce function by using output.collect, that is output is nothing but our output collector values, output collector value in the form of map function. And here for the reducer function also we are using output.collect, which is a collector object. So in this we are making use of the context object. So this is the main difference between the two applications. Okay. So MapReduce works on for small inputs to scale out. We need to store the data in a distributed file system, typically HDFS, to allow Hadoop to move the MapReduce computation to each machine hosting a part of the data. So what is scaling out? So the small inputs to scale out, we need to store the data in a distributed file system. So let us see what exactly this means. So MapReduce normally works for the smaller inputs according to this statement, but there is also a chance of scaling out this particular MapReduce function depending upon the data, and whatever data is there we can just scale the MapReduce function according to the needs of the application. So similarly when we are making use of the concept of data flow between this MapReduce job, then Hadoop mainly runs on the two types of jobs, that is map task and the reduce task. As we have seen, there is a mapping function and then there is a reducer function, and making use of these two types we are using the two types of nodes. One is called as a job tracker and one more is called as task trackers. So job tracker is the one which is controls the job execution, and task trackers are the ones which control the task whatever has been requested by the client. So how exactly these things are going to function? So in this particular diagram we see that there is a single reduce task. So let us assume that there is a data and we are making use of only one map reduce function, that is reduce function for this. And what exactly happens is we are just inputting the data in the form of HDFS file format. Then we make use of the splitting of the data according to our needs. Then we just make use of the mapping function, and after mapping of that particular function we sort the data whatever has been mapped and copy that into one database where we merge everything. So here we have mapping of the data by splitting it into split 0, split 1 and split 2 according to how many what is the size of the data. We are going to split them, and after splitting them we sort them, then we copy them into one data nodes, and here also we make use of that merging operation. After merging operation we make use of the reduction of that particular data in the particular format. Then we just store it in the form of part 0, part 1 and so on. And here we are making use of only single reduce task, so we are reducing the things into only one part, and we are getting the HDFS replication pipeline for the replicas. So similarly, when we are working with the combiner functions, or when we are having many tasks, then we need to make use of the combiner function. So here let us say there are many multiple reduce functions. So this is having one map function, this is having one map function, this is also having one map function. Then what exactly happens is after sorting the data, they are being sent to the data nodes, and here while sending them into the data nodes we see that every single split is being sent to each one of the replicas. So here we merge them, then we make use of the reduce function and we store them in the part of part 0 as well as part 1. So this will be the output HDFS, and consequently we make the replicas as per the requirements. Then sometimes we will not be having any reduce tasks, we will be only having the mapping functions. In these situations each split will be mapped into something and each part will be stored and will be stored inside the number of HDS replications. So we have a mapper function. So we make use of all the things in the same way, but here we make use of one important thing called as set combiner class and give the combining reducer class. So the reducer class here is a combiner class, and we whenever we are making use of this mapper and say reducer class for setting, then we set the combiner class as well. So depending upon that, it combines the things into one particular data in the form of HDFS replicas. So Hadoop streaming, it is nothing but that data streaming, how Hadoop streaming happens whenever we are trying to work with the program. So this is streams as the interface between the Hadoop and your program, so we can use any language that can read standard input and write the standard output to write our MapReduce program. So there are some other languages as well where we can write the map functions, which is here we are making use of Ruby, where we are using val equals to line, here temp we are q, and we are making use of some values, that is the 15.4 for year, then for temp, then for air quality and so on. Then we are just making use of the variables in the form of hash year, hash temp, and checking for the quality. So similarly for maximum temperature we are making use of last key, then key comma y, we are just using the splitting of the splitting function, then we are using last key max value. So this is with respect to Ruby. So here we are using last key max value equals to key. So there is a this is a Ruby function which we don't need to understand in much detail. So similarly we have even Python also. So in Python we use for construct, and we use year comma temp comma q, which are initialized with the values. Then if temp is not equal to, then we try to rematch it with this, then we print the year and temperature. So this is the function which is used in Python for reducing the data. Then we are using the data here for line in system key value line dot strip. Then we are using printing of the things. Then we are just trying to print the things which are retrieved from our programs. So this is how our reducer